Before you listen in, I just wanted to say quickly that we had so many technical difficulties while recording this episode. The ladies that we interviewed are professionals. They've been on radio shows, they've run a live stream on Live Paranormal, they've worked with many familiar paranormal investigators. So they know what they're doing and they have the best equipment. They did say, however, that they have had many technical difficulties. It's very common for them. So while it may be common for them, it wasn't so much for us. We pulled it together and we really hope you love this episode.
The views expressed in tonight's special are not those of Unified Podcast and may be sensitive in nature. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey guys, and happy Halloween from Unified. Today we are lucky enough to have with us paranormal investigators Niki and Jenna from Live Paranormal. So Niki, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I am a paranormal investigator and I am co-owner of liveparanormal.com. I actually do something that's kind of unique. I, in the past, have gone and lived with families who have experienced paranormal activity. So I basically uproot and move in with them and become one of the family and spend an extended period of time in their house with them.
That's interesting.
Wow. How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that for, I've been into the paranormal since I was a child, but as for moving into cases, probably the last, I don't know. It's been a while. Probably over 5 years, definitely. Yeah.
And how did you, what inspired you to get involved in this?
I lived in a house where I had paranormal experiences as a child. I saw a woman in the bathroom, and I just thought it was one of my mom's friends, but I thought it was kind of weird because she was wearing a dress, and we're not dress people, okay? So I went upstairs asking my mom who she was. I'm like, who's the lady in the bathroom? And she's like, what are you talking about? I make her come upstairs and look, and she's like, there's nobody. And I said, but I just saw a lady with a dress on. And she's like, okay, crazy. I went about my business. There was lots of other little weird things. But then years down the road, my mom came to me and she was crying. And I said, what's wrong? And she said, I saw her. I saw her. So it was nice to have my own personal experiences validated by, my skeptical mother who believes in this stuff, but didn't believe me when I was telling her what I saw. So that was powerful. And I know other people have that situation. And that's why I feel, moving in with them, becoming one with the family, getting to know them and know the scenario and spend an extended amount of time in this space to hear what the sounds are really gives you an opportunity to more in-depthly understand what the people are dealing with.
So, Niki, when you do go and stay with the families, what is your ultimate goal? How do you help them?
I just want them to be able to have the understanding of that what they are seeing, if they are seeing something or what they're experiencing, there is a reason behind it. They're not going crazy, because I know that's when I'm getting a legitimate cry for help, is when they say, people think I'm crazy, or I think I'm going crazy. And that's when I know that, a lot of times, more often than not, they are having some sort of paranormal activity. And I just want them to have that validated, like my mom did with me, but also to give them the ability to feel comfortable in the space. It's nothing that they need to be afraid of. They can take their houses back, because a lot of times by the time they reach out to me, they are at a point where they aren't comfortable and they're just miserable. And I don't want anyone to live like that.
Jenna, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I grew up in a haunted house, much like Niki, and I think that that's what happened to a lot of us that are in the paranormal. We grew up in these haunted places, and we seek answers to some of the things that we've experienced as an early child. And growing up in a haunted house, I had this, things happen. I was always questioning whether or not I put something in a certain place, or things would go up missing and then reappear in the place that I originally looked for it in. And then as I got older, my mom came down with lung cancer, and I knew she was going to pass away, and I wanted a way to be able to be in contact with her when she passed. And so it made me more inquisitive and wanting to know more, and if you can truly contact someone once they've passed away. And so as a result of that, that's how I found Niki. I was looking for someone who was more like me as a person. So I was looking for a female investigator that sort of mirrored how I am as a person and my sort of beliefs within the paranormal. And I came across, on YouTube, there's so many female investigators out there, but I came across some videos of Niki, and she just was phenomenal. And she was just like what you'd see in a male investigator in terms of like she just doesn't take anything from anybody. Like she, whether it's living or dead, she doesn't let anyone sort of, I don't know.
I've noticed that about her too. When I was watching, I was like, "This woman is balls to the wall. She really is."
Okay. So I didn't know if I could say. I didn't know if I could crap from
You
anyone.
can say whatever you
or,
want. You can say whatever you want.
Well, she doesn't take any crap from anyone, living or dead, and I really respected that about her because sometimes you go into these places and they're you'll start getting a lot of stuff directed at women very negatively. And she'll be like, hold up, no. And so, and like a lot of times when you watch female investigators on TV or even on the internet, like the first thing they do when they start getting stuff said to them is they scream or they run out. And Niki was my mentor, and she would tell me, first rule, you never run out and you don't scream. And that's sort of like what we live by. And I really respect that about her because she gave me a tough skin right from the beginning.
Okay, so we have some questions for you guys, obviously. And we have a question for you before we get into the listener questions. The one question that we would really love to know the answer to is, has anybody ever been physically harmed during any of your investigation?
Here's the thing. I live in a haunted, my apartment complex used to be a former asylum. So that being said, the energy here is off and on. And as a result of that, one night I was here just texting on my phone and I received scratches on both of my forearms. I've been at locations where I've been drained. I'm very sensitive to energy. I'm very sensitive to other people's energy. I could be talking to you on the phone and you could tell me you're fine and you're okay, but at the same time, I know that you're not okay, you're not fine. I can feel it like in my soul.
Do you consider yourself an empath? Is that basically?
Yeah, I definitely consider myself an empath. I definitely absorb other people's feelings. In fact, to the point of where I've stopped watching the news because everything is so negative. It just put me in a really negative spot. And I now just don't watch the news because I can actually like read a newspaper article about someone I don't know. And it's a horrible story and I can feel those emotions. And it really, really affects me. So I have to really be cognizant of the energy that I bring in and take like and have around me.
Wow, in your life, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I will say that living here where I live now, it's a place where you have to be cognizant of the energy, and I feel like the energy in my apartment it flows in and out. It's like a wave. And sometimes there's stuff in here that isn't so good, and sometimes there's stuff in here it's just like someone that's passed away, and it's an energy, but it's not bad. And I'm not, by bad, I don't mean demonic. I just mean that they're just not a happy person.
Right. Now, how did you get the scratches?
I don't know. They just appeared on my forearms. I was texting. I had my phone in my hand, both hands, because I have a larger size phone with a larger size screen. And I looked down. I'm like, why does both of my forearms hurt? And I looked down and I had scratches on both of my forearms. I can't explain it.
Out?
No, I'm used to this stuff.
I know.
No, first thing I did was I took pictures to prove that it happened. And the second thing I did was call my skeptic cousin who lives with me into the room. And I'm like, look at this. And he's like, what? And I'm like, look at my forearms. What do you see? He's like, scratches. I'm like, I was just texting. And he's like looking at me like, okay. But it's just, you want that validation from somebody else that what you're seeing, you're not A, crazy, and B, like it actually happened. You want that sort of validation. I think what Niki was talking about earlier about people that contact her and us, and they have stuff happen. The first thing that they always comes out of their mouth is, am I crazy for saying this? And no, you're not crazy. It's happened. It's just, you want to document it so other people will believe that you're not crazy. Because,
and of course, your skeptical roommate's probably trying to debunk it and can't.
well, there's no way
assume.
I mean, he believes me that I was texting because I was still holding the phone the same way I was holding. I'm like, look at this. And he's just looking at me like, yeah, that's weird. I've been in locations that are notoriously haunted, and I've definitely been affected in a sense because I'm an empath. Things drain me. I've been in a place out in Indiana where I literally was dry heaving outside, and I had to spend most of the time in the car because it was affecting me so badly.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, but the difference between someone inexperienced in the paranormal and someone experienced is, I knew enough to take myself out of the situation and stay in the car. Someone who isn't experienced, they would still stay in that situation. They would still try and be in that place. But I knew enough that whatever was in there wanted me to feel sick, wanted to drain me, wanted to make me ill. And I just took myself out of that situation. I took myself out of the equation. And that's the thing. As an investigator, as a responsible investigator, you have to know enough to be able to take yourself out when the time is needed. And that's what you have to do. If it means saving your own health, you have to take yourself out of the equation.
What about you, Niki, though? Have you ever been like physically injured by any of your investigations?
I have had scratches appear on my back, and I was wearing 5 layers of coats. Like, no, not kidding at all. Like, wow. I literally looked like the Michelin Man. It was like 2 feet of snow, and it was just as cold inside as it was outside. In fact, some of these locations that we investigate in the winter, when it's snowing and stuff, it feels warmer outside in the snow than it does in the space. So I had 5 layers. Yeah, how do you do that? Because that's like a magician, because I mean, when I was peeling them off I was like, it's really, my back is burning. And, one of the guys was like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, I don't really care. I'm just saying, like, what, right. You get a rash or something? Like, what's going on here? And the one guy, was like, well, here, let me look. And he helped me unpeel. He goes, thank God. He goes, how many layers do you have on? And I said, still not enough. I'm cold except for where my back's burning. And I had scratches down my back. I did have a incident at a location where I was I don't know what to call it. I call it overtaken by something that, and we have part of it on video, and it's just surreal because I don't even remember the experience. All I know is the video and what the other people told me. But evidently I took on mannerisms and characteristics that were not myself, and knew where things were in the building where I would not have had that information. Wow. And I knew stuff about the town that this was my first time in that town, so I shouldn't have known it. So it was really weird.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah. Ooh,
yeah, I got called Mr. Wills for a few months thereafter because that's the guy apparently that I was acting like. So yeah, it was a little weird.
And you have no memory of any of that?
No, nope. Only what I saw on the video and what they've told me. I don't recall any of it. So I can't. When I did finally, I guess, snap out of it or whatever, I was more pissed about my camera being down in the room that we were in, and they didn't bring it with them to document it. Okay, because that's, as Jenna was saying, that's one of the biggest things in this field is document. And without fail, usually when your cameras are off is when these kind of things happen. You get the most awesome, you'll see an apparition, or you'll, hear a disembodied voice when the cameras and the audio equipment are off. So the fact this is happening, I'm like, come on, do it, record it.
Do you think that they somehow, the spirits somehow know? And that's why, they come through when stuff is not recording?
Perhaps. I think that, they know a lot more than we assume that they do by our silly questions that we ask. But I also know that a lot of when going into an investigation of a place that's darker in nature, going into it without having your head in the game. Like if you've got something else going on in your life or you're upset, just stick it out. Don't go. Because they pride that type of weakness. They see that as a weakness and they feed off of that, just like they feed off of fear. So by putting myself in that situation like I did, I had a lot going on at the time and I probably just should have, taken that extra 20 or whatever, but I didn't. I push on and push on.
Now, was there a reason that this particular man wanted to come through like that? What was he telling people besides the history of the town? Why do you think he was there?
I wanted to go to my office, apparently. This was a funeral home that went into disarray. It was quite a few things before that. It's a phenomenal location called the House of Wills in Cleveland, Ohio. And the guy died and his family took over and they basically put it into the ground. They were dealing drugs out of the place, all sorts of stuff. And this building was his everything.
Right.
And apparently when I was, this feels so weird to say, when I was him, I wanted to go to my office. So I don't know what was in the office because evidently they didn't let me go to my office. So I don't know. I guess we'll never know because they didn't let me go to my office. Mm-hmm.
A viewer wanted to know if you could quickly tell us what kind of equipment you use in your investigations.
Yes. Well, for me personally, my favorite things to use are a recorder, myself, my personal body. Where I said I was an empath before, I feel as though, I can feel certain energy. And I think Niki will agree with when I say that we can walk into like a store and just know that something is off about it. And that goes for the both of us. But my other favorite thing is what people call a spirit box. And I know you've seen it on some paranormal shows. Zach uses something like a SB7. Niki and I have kind of named it the migraine maker. And it's a spirit box. Now, when we use it, it just gives us a headache. And we don't get out of it what he gets out of it. And
that's because his is edited for TV, remember.
Correct. And that's the thing. What people have to realize is that when you watch these paranormal shows, you could have a 42-minute episode, but that's 2 days worth of investigating edited down to 42 minutes. And when Niki and I do this stuff, we're doing it live. We're doing it in front of you. We're not faking anything. And that's another thing that Niki taught me early on is, I don't fake anything. I won't fake anything. And I feel the same way. Like what you get, you get. What you don't get, you don't get. So my 3 favorite things I would say is my own personal self, my recorder, even 4, a flashlight, and and a spirit box, because
I think that would be my most favorite thing is the flashlight.
Well, the flashlight simply because some of these locations are super dark. You're walking around and there's a lot of it's abandoned places sometimes. There's a lot of obstacles in the dark that you may trip over and not see. And in some places, let's face it, like there's floors missing in certain spots. It's not the most glamorous hobby to have.
No.
So you're meandering around in like these big places with like complete darkness, using only your camera as the light source, and you have to have a flashlight. So my recorder, my flashlight, my spirit box, and a flash, and that's about it. Those are my. And keep in mind, I've invested thousands of dollars in equipment, but out of all of those thousands of dollars, my expensive recorder, my flashlight, and my Frank's boxes are my go-to pieces of equipment. Niki, what are yours?
Mine, I would say, would be, it depends on where I'm investigating, honestly, and what I'm feeling that day. I know this sounds weird, but like, there are some things that I've bought that like I should just get rid of because I bought them and they're definitely, per the paranormal standard of items that you should use. And I don't have that connection with the device. or I don't feel like it's going to work. And a lot of times I've been right. So I would say, depending on where I'm investigating, but if I had to take and walk in with, I'd have to say the audio recorder, because let's face it, EVPs and disembodied voices are like a gold mine. If you get it, that's like the best feeling in the world. I definitely say my camera, with that being included, a large supply of batteries, because when you're in one of these places, nothing works. Okay, even when you're anywhere, really, it seems as though tech difficulties seem to follow the field. But I would say the audio recorder, the camera, and probably like one of my REM pods, and I don't know, maybe my dowsing rods, depending on the location.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and add the camera too, because I need to document it. So
yeah, and a ghost box. These are just like your standards. It's just like you can't fit it in 3. You have to have a bag, and sometimes you have to have more than one bag.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you don't understand, when we go away, like we have a car packed from top to bottom that includes everything from dolls right down to I can't even tell you. Toilet paper, Christmas light, bucket, and then we use that thing too. That
oh man,
we actually have. What's that thing called from the Christmas lights that you shine on your house?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I forget the name of it. Yeah, it was all the rage one year. Yeah,
we actually use that as actually a paranormal tool. So I'm telling you, when we go away, the car is packed from floor to ceiling with everything you could possibly imagine.
And enough batteries to look like we're up to no good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm curious, how do you try to debunk possible proofs so that all of this is validated? So like you're recording all this stuff. Do you ever try to debunk what you're seeing in order to prove that it's real?
You have to.
How do you do that?
You have to. In order to be an effective investigator, you have to be a believer, but also incredibly skeptical. And I personally am so skeptical, not only probably over skeptical of my own evidence, and even others, but more so of my own, because I would never want to put anything out there that somebody else could go, well, that's easy, that's this. I mean, you really, you have to have the environment in order to investigate. I do a lot of public investigations through my work, and because part of my job, I found a job that allows me to ghost hunt as a job. I mean, come on, that's like amazing, right? But a lot of the public investigations, because of the people that are around who aren't necessarily, and even when you have experienced investigators, it does not mean that you're not going to run into this. There'll be whispers. People won't call things out, and I would never want to release something that wasn't true to being something that I have debunked every which way, shape, and form. And I mean, I'm really hard on my own stuff. I'm really, really hard. Was there a cell phone anywhere that could have been, making the REM pod go off? I mean, these are things that, as you've been in the field long enough, and trust me when I say, I have done a lot of investigating. And I drug Jenna along on her first trip, and she knows. How many locations did we hit on that trip?
I don't know. I just know we were on the road for 18 days, and we hit and like every single night of those 18 days, and Kimberly was actually modding our chat room at the time. It was like it was a location every single night, sometimes one location for an entire week, but we were actually living in these places, in these spaces, and
some have no water, some have no power.
No, and imagine being
no shower.
Yeah, sounds a like female. I mean,
and I do want to put it out there to everybody that's listening that I do know Jenna personally. We've known each other since 2009, and I can personally attest that she is not the kind of person that would make anything up. So right off the bat, I knew that whatever she was doing with Niki was for real. And as I was modding for them for a little bit, I got to see some of the stuff they're talking about. And it's amazing. It's a lot of boredom for a while. And then all of a sudden something happens and everybody's like, oh, what just happened?
Right.
So, yeah.
It's literally what people come in from the public and want to go on a ghost hunt. Okay. They think it's going to all happen in that beautiful 42-minute edited, wrapped up, beautiful little package. And you could tell those people who are like, well, this isn't like it is on TV. I'm like, really? I know. you're going to sit here. I said, sometimes I have driven all the way to Iowa, okay, on my own dime, go to Iowa and to the Axe Murder House, and I didn't have anything happen. Nothing happened. Nothing happened.
Disappointing.
It was a cool place. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not haunted. It just wasn't the right day for me to have something happen there, I guess. But, you know, in the same regard, would I say, oh, it's not haunted? Let me give them their stamp of not haunted, you know, approval, whatever. No. I'd love to go back and try it again, you know, see if I get something. Just because something doesn't happen when you want it to doesn't mean anything. None of us have a contract with entities to be able to make them perform. There are people, you know, and people have bad days. People get in bad moods. I think a lot of times what's being perceived as a demon is probably just some person who is probably just as negative in life, or they just don't want you in their space, you know, and if they don't want you to know that they're there, they're not going to do something. It's just as easy as that. Just like I don't answer my door when the guy comes knocking on the door trying to sell me something.
Right.
You know, it's just the same,
Right.
you know? So,
Well, how do you decide which places to investigate?
we have a wish list that we compile.
A paranormal bucket list. And
Okay, so how did those places end up on your bucket list?
from watching different locations on different shows or people that we know that investigate, we always, like, as soon as we see a really cool location, we write it down and then send it to each other. This happens quite frequently. I sent her one tonight, as a matter of fact.
And I said, when are we going?
Yeah, because I know I actually did the time from her work to the place and the time from her house to the place, because I knew she'd want to know how long of a drive it was to get there. And because it was only 2 and some change, I knew it was like a definite go. Because let's face it, Niki and I have driven to Indiana.
I'm not afraid to drive.
No, but like we've decided on a weekend we're going to drive to Indiana to go to the Monroe House, and we're like, okay, well, this is how far there and back, and can we get back? But when it's something like 2.5 hours, we're like, oh, it's happening.
Even with me working as much as I am right now, I could find 2.5 hours plus a little bit of investigation time and time to get back to go to work. I can do that. Yeah, I'm down.
Find the time, can't you?
It's interesting that you just brought up the Monroe House, because I'm wondering, is that one of the most haunted places that you've ever been, or is there something worse?
Well, we thought we broke it. We thought we
broke it. The first time we went there, it was off the chain. And like we had a tripod thrown. I had my hair pulled. I was made nauseous. It was like off the chain. The second time we went there, we actually texted the owners and said, either we fixed your house or we broke it, because nothing happened.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they were like, okay, we're not going to bother these two because they stayed the whole night. We couldn't scare them away, so.
We stayed multiple nights at the Monroe House. I think a total of at least 5 overnight at the Monroe House, 2 different times. 3 nights
but
the first
isn't that
time.
a place where other investigators have ran out of the house and refused to go back?
That's my favorite. That's my favorite. Because you know what? I am a girl who will not run out behind a guy, nor do I need one. I do not need a man to get the boogeyman out, okay? If anything, the boogeyman should be scared of me.
Okay, so that's amazing that the other people have run out of there and you two stayed there all night, multiple times.
Yep. I work at the most haunted inn in America, which is the historic Farnsworth House in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, which we also have guests who run out. Who leave during the middle of the night and are afraid to stay, and who come back the next day for our breakfast because it's that good, and to hand in their key and tell me that they didn't make it through the night.
And I literally stayed at her work pretty much for a month last year. I lived at the Farnsworth, and I will tell you, I've slept in every single the most haunted room and every single super haunted room, and even ones that people didn't think was as haunted as it was, and now they've kind of nicknamed it my own room there out in the garden.
It was the Jenny Wade room, and now it's the Jenny Wade Berman room. We hyphenate it.
Has anybody ever quit the team due to fear or denial of the paranormal?
We've had people leave the field completely. And they've said that the reason being is because of the turmoil that it had caused within their lives. Because when you leave a location, that location doesn't necessarily leave you. Neither does, the things that we dive into at times are, most people would be like, what in the world? It can affect your life big time. And
has a spirit ever like you were just saying that it doesn't leave you, has a spirit ever followed you out of a place you've investigated, and does that concern you at all?
I've had that happen. Yes. And I've been told I have attachments. I probably have a whole line of them now. What do you call it? What is it? Attach-I in plural? As many as I must have.
Is that a word?
Exactly. Yeah. It should be. If not, it is now Urban Dictionary. Yeah. I've had a lot of things that have followed me home. In fact, I did it was a few day investigation on the road. The first one that we ever did was myself and Dave Spinks. And on my way after dropping him off, I had something happen. And I was en route to my house only to quickly stop in and look at my kids and say hi to my dog and run back out to go to Pinhurst. It was the best week of my life. I literally hit so many places. But I had something occur in the car, and I actually was on the phone with somebody who witnessed it completely disconnected our call. She called me back. She goes, "What is going on?" And I said, "I don't know, but it's in my backseat."
What was happening? What was happening?
It was like the weirdest sounds, and the strangest. It was surreal.
Wow.
It was so strange. It's one of the many nights of strangeness, which I could go on for days. But it was definitely very, very weird. And shortly thereafter, I'd gone to a convention where we had set up a table there, and one of the ladies came over to me and said, "Do you realize that you have a horrible attachment?" And I said,
"Oh no."
Okay. And yeah, so she said that she had cleared it, but I believe I probably acquired 12 more.
Yeah, so I mean that's not really a concern for you.
I know that I hold my ground. And I think that if you would like to believe that it can make you sick or whatever, and I do think some have the power to do that, but I think for me, it's mind over matter. And maybe that's careless, and there'll be years down the road where I'll change my answer and I'll be like, "It's horrible." I don't know. But right now, I like to think that I'm stronger than that could ever be. So.
Well, it's obviously working for you now, so.
I hope so. Yeah, I think so.
Somebody did ask us though if you can conjure bad spirits by doing this. Like if you can conjure a spirit that wasn't necessarily there to begin with.
I feel as though anytime you open yourself up to the other side, you open yourself up to that. Now, that being said, people do their own protections before they start this stuff, or whatever that is for them. If they're a very religious person, that could mean saying prayers. If you're not religious, it could just mean you just do your own thing, see a white light, or just protect yourself in some way. You have guides, whatever. But I will say that when it comes to this stuff, I look at it this way: if you're looking for the light, you'll find the light. If you're looking for dark stuff, you're going to find dark stuff. I don't openly go looking for negative stuff, but that being said, I do go to negative locations because I feel in order to be well-rounded in this field, you have to experience both. You have to be experienced in both the darkness and you have to be experienced in the light. And by saying that, I don't mean that I'm out here practicing occult stuff or doing rituals or anything like that. But I feel as though you have to have that exposure in order to know how to handle it in a situation where say someone called you into their house and they're having a dark thing occur, you have to be experienced in it or have experience with it in order to be able to try and help them with it. And I think that's something Niki taught me early on, is that never show fear. And, when we go into some of these super dark locations, we make sure not to talk about our families. Don't bring up anything personal that can be used against you. Try and clear your head. because we know what we're going into before we go into it. So it's taking your own precautions because you want to protect the people at home. I mean, she has a family. At times, I was living with older people. You don't want to bring that stuff home. You don't want it to affect your home life. You want to be able to, what we're doing is on us, but we don't want it to affect other people.
A listener says she watches a lot of paranormal TV. She wants to know, how would you know for sure what the 3 scratch marks mean? Is it really mocking the Holy Trinity, or could it mean something else entirely?
I believe it can mean something totally different. I think that it is one of those things that could be misconstrued as, the Holy Trinity as a sign of, mocking the Trinity. I think that if it has that kind of knowledge, why not? When I die, I plan on haunting everybody. Okay, so so if that's something that would make me think it was scary and bad. And it could just be, I don't know, some little ghost kid with a hangnail. I don't know. I can't say the answer with certainty that I do know, because this is the unknown.
No one is an expert in the paranormal. I think Niki will agree with me on that.
100%. No one is an expert.
No one can be an expert on the unexplained and the unknown. I just want to make it clear, because this person had talked about, or someone had talked about, watching paranormal shows. On paranormal shows, the new hip thing is to make believe that everything is demonic.
It's a demon.
It's a demon.
Yeah.
It's a demon. It's a demon, and that's a very common thread, and because it makes it exciting and entertaining, and it's
better than Casper.
Yeah, and here's the real deal.
Good point.
I was speaking to Kimberly the other night, and I said, you have more of a chance of getting in an accident with a plane than meeting a true demonic entity. And that's the truth, because Niki has been in this field a lot longer than I have, and I can honestly tell you, how many true demonic cases, Niki, have you actually, do you feel as though that you've been on, or how many demons do you feel as though that you've been in all of this?
Well, only one, and she evidently has a pulse. So
there you go.
Yeah.
She what?
She only one, and she was a fellow investigator, and apparently she has a pulse. I've come across things that are negative in this field by far. So I think that if it was anything truly demonic, I really don't feel so, and I could be entirely wrong. Maybe I'm naive. But I have come across some very, very, very dark things.
Right.
But I've also come across some very dark individuals. So I think, honestly, my whole perspective is that living people are far, far scarier than ghosts could ever be.
A woman says she believes a spirit is attached to her or her husband due to many things that have happened to them, no matter what house they live in. She has tried salt and sage to get rid of them, but it hasn't worked, and she doesn't understand why. Do you have any advice?
Salt and sage are a temporary, like a Band-Aid on a gaping wound a lot of times. It will actually, they'll go through the motions of smudging a house, and using sage and using the salts. But it tends to dampen things down for a little bit. But then all of a sudden, things will pick back up, and it'll be even crazier than it was before. A lot of times, I personally feel it has to do with the person who is utilizing the technique. So if you have to mean it, you have to, with conviction. And you don't need those tools. You could just use your own voice and just say, hey, you've got to go. You're messing with my life. And you got to set boundaries and ground rules. You have to think of this as, these are people, and I'm sorry, but I'll walk over a line of salt. How about you? I'll walk around. You could burn sage around me all day. You could spray me with it, whatever. You have to have like a common ground. You have to say, this is the way it goes, and you have to say it with conviction. If you say it like this is how it goes, it's not going to go over so well. If the person has a true belief that the salt and sage will prevent or fix things, then I believe that psychological power is power, and it will work. So, it kind of all, for me, depends on the person's belief system. And, maybe just having that come to Jesus moment with whatever's going on would be a step to take, toward trying to get some resolution there. But I'm sure there's many other things that fall into play there too. What about you, Jenna? You agree with that, or?
I just want to interject one little thing too, is that a lot of people think sage helps in a situation, and sometimes it actually makes something angry. And a case of that would be in, say, a Native American haunting, where sage would actually, in fact, anger the spirit more so than quell it. And I think sometimes people use sage as a automatic thing when it just does the exact opposite of what they're trying to do.
A lot of times, if you're dealing with a Native American haunting, you would want to present a like tobacco, okay, or something, an offering, something like that. Again, we don't know what kind of situation she's dealing with, and I do believe that attachments and hauntings can follow individuals, just like that case from the Demons in Seattle case. We believe that he actually did happen to have things happen in this particular space, but when he moved from that space, he continued to have things happen. When he would travel to a hotel, he would have things happen. This poor man couldn't get rest. To say that the poltergeist activity was pertained just to that physical address, I think is not the case. I think people can be haunted, and for that situation, I don't know, and I hate to say this because I don't want to give anybody some sort of like Debbie Downer here, but there are situations where whatever you think that you're doing right won't be. You may always have something. It's coming to terms with it a lot of times, and having that, hey, this is how it's going to go attitude can really change your life, and to let you have that upper hand rather than them having the upper hand. But is that always the answer? I don't know.
Yeah, and I could see that being a very difficult situation for this person. And this has been going on for them for like 15 years. So.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Yeah.
But it may be something that they experienced in their childhood. Like, say they used a Ouija board and they didn't close it out. But there are people out there that do cleansings. Not everybody that says they do a cleansing is truly
That's
like
so
a person
true.
that does cleansing. Mm-hmm. But there are people out there that can remove some of this stuff. Not all hope is lost.
Right. Have you ever had this is completely different, but have you ever had an interaction with a loved one during this type of stuff?
I like to think I have. Mm-hmm. I definitely, at that case actually where Jenna wasn't feeling so well and had to sit it out, I actually had something really dark trying to mess with me through EVP, really, which is even stranger because typically that's not something that, as I had said before, it's like you found $1 million under that rainbow or some shit. Like you don't have that happen all the time. I had something really dark trying to come through, and I had what I felt like was my grandmother who had recently passed away. I really felt like she intervened, so I can't even explain. It was just really, really strange. But there's times when I think one of the other reasons that I'm into this field is because my son's father passed away when my son was 6 weeks old, and it was very sudden. It was an accident. And I wanted that connection. I wanted to be able to talk to him. And, I feel like I've come close a few times. I've never had his voice come through the ghost box. I've never had him come talk to me or show himself to me. I want that so bad. And I think I want it so bad that I may never get to have it.
Right.
I think I'm putting up my own walls from it. Yeah. But I still want it, so hopefully one day I'll be able to say I've had that with him.
I hope so too.
Yeah. But I've had close friends who have come through who have passed away, and using their own voice through the ghost box.
Wow.
So that was so powerful, and I'm just like, it was awesome to hear from you. But can you get Josh?
It's like you had a phone call.
Right. I'm like, that's great, but could you also get him to come through? Thanks. And I mean,
right.
I just want more, so.
Oh. What about you, Jenna?
Yes. So my mom died in 2010, and the first year after she died, obviously, was super hard. And it was right around Christmas time, and Christmas was one of her favorite holidays. And I was in the house by myself. I don't know if my dad was in the garage or running an errand, but I just remember walking down the hallway and smelling the smell of a freshly lit cigarette. Now, my father smokes a pipe, and he wasn't in the house at all, and I don't smoke cigarettes. So I couldn't explain it away. I just knew it was my mom's cigarette. Like, I just knew, because there's nothing more distinctful than, like, if you're a non-smoker and you smell a freshly lit cigarette. And it was so strong that when my dad came in the house, I said, "Did you come in here earlier and light a cigarette?" And he's like, "You know, I don't smoke cigarettes, and I smoke a." All right. I'm just asking you because I smelled this, you know. And
that's actually happened to me too. My father's cigarettes, I smell them from time to time.
And it's
strong.
It's so distinctive. And if you're a non-smoker, it's even more distinctive, because it's like I know that smell. And you know, if you grew up around cigarettes like I did, my mom was always a coffee and cigarette person. I know the smell of her, you know. And it just, I knew it was her in that moment checking in on me around Christmas. She knew I was by myself, you know, and it was just like, it wasn't scary. It was more like, it was like a hug, you know, like, I'm here. And it feels so good when something like that happens, because you know it's truly them. There's no other way to explain it. And it's just like a nice little visit for a few seconds.
Yeah, I agree.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So, what paranormal experience has affected your life the most positively or negatively?
I'm gonna go to the Farnsworth, Nikki, that experience that we had last summer.
Oh, that was. If it's the one I'm thinking about, it's profound and awesome. Go there, girl.
Yeah. So Nikki, part of Nikki's job is if there's any TV shows or people that want to book the entire place, she has to sort of be responsible for the space. And if that means that they want to investigate all night, she has to be present in the space. Well, as her friend and as someone that was sort of like living there off and on, I said, you know, I have equipment. I realize these people rented the space. I want to help you out. I know you're going to be up all night, you know, just to have someone else there who's an investigator that can really just, you know, she knows I'm not going to steal anything. She knows I'm pretty much living there. The family all knows me, you know, and who own the place. And so she wanted someone else that would help her also be responsible in case something was to go awry. And so we're in this space, and Nikki is talking to one of the people, and she's talking about the air conditioning. And because
they were having a tech problem. Go figure, a tech problem.
Another tech problem.
And we were talking about how cold it was in the space in the dining room, because what people don't realize about the Farnsworth is it used to be a field hospital in the dining room. And so you know, that's where they do all the operations during the Civil War. But here are people having their fancy dinner, you know, in what used to be a field hospital. And so she's talking to one of the girls about, you know, how cold it is. And the girl's like, well, can you turn down the air conditioner? And the place is very old. And Nikki's like, no, it's under lock and key. I wouldn't know how to shut it down, even if I could. And if I did, I wouldn't know how to, what if it went out? I don't want to be responsible in case we had to turn it back. Well, just then, a spoon goes whizzing by Nikki's head. And their spoons there at the Farnsworth are not like really light spoons. They're like, they tried to make them similar to those that were used during the Civil War. Like, would you call them like a pewter spoon, Nikki? Like,
yeah, they're like heavy. That's like a decent spoon. Okay, this is not your standard silverware that you would use at your house. You know, this is a honking, you know, heavy spoon.
Wow.
And so she's in the dark, and I'm sort of standing in the doorway, and she's like, something was just thrown at me. We're like, well, what could it be? And we ended up turning on the light for a second, and she looked behind her, and sure enough, there's a spoon on the floor. So Nikki, being Nikki, says, well, can you do it again? Well, the next thing you know, she has, what was it, a battery thrown at her?
No, then next was a marker, a Sharpie marker, which I still don't even know where it came from. A black Sharpie marker.
Was it thrown at you?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no.
Yeah, so we turn the light on again. We look, sure enough, marker. We turn the light out again. She says, can you do it again? This time a battery is thrown at her. So we turn the light on, and it became this game of turning the light on. Now
and this is happening just as fast as she's saying it. So that's why it's even more surreal. I'm like literally just kind of, my mouth was wide open. I'm surprised I didn't have better aim. They could have choked me with a battery.
Yeah, like it started to become a crime scene. It started to become like a crime scene of items that were just thrown at her randomly. So like there was another battery, there was a walkie-talkie battery, and then but another, like, I don't even know what else. I ended up standing next to her, and I'm like, okay, well, if you can do that, I want you to pull out his chair, because Nikki's business partner Rob had been there before, and he was sitting in a chair. And he looked kind of like this guy. And I thought, well, maybe if they pull out the chair, because he looks like him, they'll do it again. And they didn't pull out the chair, but they poked him right in the back. And then next thing you know, the chair next to him gets pulled out. And I'm like, okay.
He almost pooped his pants, by the way. When that happened, he almost pooped his pants. He was beyond scared. They were filming a TV show for Paranormal. Yet when all this started happening.
So the chair got pulled out on its own?
Yes, by itself.
Because keep in mind, Nikki being Nikki, she's looking around the room to make sure that nobody is pulling any crap. Because by this
I looked under tables and everything. I mean, I was like, you all better not be messing with me, because someone will die here. There will be more bloodshed in this dining room, okay?
and I felt so bad, because there was this really young girl there. She might have only been like 19 years old, and she sat up against the wall, and she's literally rocking back and forth from fear, and like practically crying.
It was amazing.
So I'm standing there, and I'm like, okay, so if you're going to do something, do it to me. And I took my glasses off and I put them on the table. Now, these are just cheap readers. But like all of a sudden, my glasses go flying off the table. They ricochet off the chandelier and
with force.
And then hit the guy's fiance in the leg. And she screamed like bloody murder. And then I'm not even joking. Like there was just like this series of events, and we got like these crazy EVPs of a guy like laughing when I asked him about it. And then my recorder went missing, and then when it came back, it was found in another room on a table, and none of us had left the room. Like it was,
because this is like Clue at this point. Okay, we're all looking at each other like,
this is amazing. What? Did you ever find out like what? It sounds like somebody was angry, or were they just messing with you? Like,
I wish they'd do it again. And if I knew what I said, I've tried again. I've gone and talked crap about the air conditioner.
Well, no, but didn't you say that you had one night where there was another group in there very similarly, and the silverware moved, or there was a sound?
Yes, there was. Yes, silverware did move. It didn't fly though. It didn't fly at me.
Yeah, that's amazing. When you're talking about stuff flying at your head. Chairs moving by themselves.
And I'm just looking around the room at all the forks. When I'm saying the words, all right, you did that. Okay. If you really did that, can you do it again? And I'm thinking to myself, there's a lot of big, heavy forks in this room. And I could just be taking one straight to the jugular.
Right.
But I'm like, can you do it again?
Right.
And then, the guys like shut down. The people who were filming were like, we're done. We're done. They were scared.
Wow.
And I was upset because I wanted to keep going. But they paid for the space, you know. So it's not like I can be like, you're going to keep going. I'm forcing you now.
And I'll say that, like, we looked for every kind of, like, person faking anything. Like, everyone's eyes was on, like, everyone. And when we talk about happened one after the other, this was all in a 20-minute span. Just like boom, 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 boom. Unreal.
How long had you been there before this happened?
Oh.
It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and we had started at 10 that night. Yeah. Probably.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
You waited a long time for a little bit, but...
Yeah, they packed up all their stuff. Awesome. It was hilarious.
I would never forget that. That was amazing. Yeah, that was not a little bit.
That was an awesome night.
Yeah. And for people like us, we find it's like an adrenaline rush, like jumping out of a plane. Like we just wanted to keep going, you know, when this is like what you call like the Bigfoot of the paranormal. You know what I mean? This is what you want.
This is our Loch Ness,
Into this stuff. Yeah, this for
Mhm.
people that are into this is like what you want. This is what you're waiting for. And that's why we say, can you do it again? Because that's how you know the real investigator from like the hobbyist, let's say, because they'd be like, I'm done, I'm out, see you later, peace out, I'm good. And Nikki and I are just like, okay, we'll do it again. And like people look at you like you're crazy, but
They all
the
did.
truth is, yeah, because we want that. Because if
That's
you can do
what
I
it
could
they're
just
for.
imagine. I mean, I'm laughing, but I know I would be scared out of my mind.
No,
I'd be
but
one
I'm
of those
looking at
girls
them.
running out.
I'm looking at them going, this is what you're here for, guys.
right.
Right.
You know, and they were
That's
like,
true.
I think that's the only one that they ever filmed. I don't think they filmed any others thereafter. I think that you know,
But they didn't.
I don't think they did. I think that basically the Farnsworth house scared the crap out of them. And they were like, okay, I don't know if this is for me.
What advice do you guys have for those people that want to become paranormal investigators?
Don't believe everything you see on TV. Do your homework. Find someone in the field who you feel is somebody that you can trust, that you feel that their methodologies are something that you would be comfortable standing by and learning from, and just using your brain.
Right.
What about you, Jenna? What advice do you have?
I'd say start out small. Go into a place that's and I'm not like not a negative place or anything, but and I'm actually going against everything that I did, but going now and I'll explain that in a second. But just start out small. Go in and see if you can actually hack it, because I think sometimes people, and Nikki will attest to this. She's had people come in thinking that they could be in the space, and then something happens and they freak out and they want to
drive separate cars.
Yes.
Drive separate.
Yes.
So that way, yes.
That way you have a way home.
Stay, right? Because I'm staying. Yep.
Yeah. And and unfortunately, like for me, I'm like a go big or go home. And what I meant by like start out small, for me, that didn't happen. Like Nikki asked me, she's like, my husband is going camping with my son. I have all this free time. Do you want to go 18 days in a row on the road? And, it was going from armchair at home investigator to now I'm going to be in the field. I'm going to be away from home. I'm going to be in different states. And you got to be able to hack
for
it.
almost a month. Yeah, that's a long trip.
And I mean, I went from I just jumped into the pool 2 feet forward, and I went from. And Nikki will say, I did not run from any location. I have not run from any location. And she, like I said, I credit her to teaching me everything I know in terms of how I investigate. And but it's the truth. Like, I would not be the investigator that I am if I didn't have the teacher that she is. So
okay, so your advice, I guess, would be to find a mentor that is just really amazing and that you connect with.
Yeah, and someone that's experienced, like, because when I met Nikki had been to negative places, she had been to residential, she had done the gamut of things. And, you have to have someone that's been in there, done that, wore the t-shirt. Because if you're in a situation that you both never experienced before, you both have the potential to freak out. And so, like, I wanted someone that if I'm going into these negative places, she's may have had that experience before. She can help get me out of it. She knows people. Like, Nikki knows so many people in the paranormal that if we were to get into a really horrible situation, she knows shamans, she knows priests, she knows, bishops, she knows
people in every state who I can call when the doo-doo hits the fan.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's good, though. That's
And that's what you want to look for. If you're going to be serious about this, you want someone that's well connected, that knows what they're doing, that practices and has the same ethics as you. That there's a whole gamut of things. But like, if you don't align, like your personalities don't align, your ethics don't align, it's not going to work out. You got to find someone.
And be careful.
Yes.
Be careful, because a lot of people in this field are what they are on camera, but what they are in real life is a total different thing.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
Oh, they put on a persona on camera that is totally different from the way they are in real life. And I personally have no patience for that whatsoever. I am the way I am, whether it be a live stream or whether it be me sitting in my living room chilling. I am who I
Right.
am. I'm not one of those, let's pull out a big bag of fake. No. There are a lot of those people in this field. There's people who I thought were genuine, who I thought had, all of our best interests at heart, and they did not. And that's something not only for people who want to join a team or find a mentor, but also for clients who are reaching out for help. Do some homework on that end too, because there are a lot of people in this field who are literally only after one thing, whether that be fame or whether that be, whatever it is. Because I hope they don't think that it's a paycheck, because that's a joke. In this field, there's a lot of money.
Spending money.
Exactly, you spend a whole lot more, and honestly, the best, payment in this field is being able to help somebody, or to have a family be able to sleep in their home at night and feel more comfortable. But know who you're working with, know who you're involving yourself with.
No, I just want to say that I wish everyone a very happy Halloween.
A safe one too.
A safe one too. I know this year is different. And I hope that, if you are experiencing something, feel free to contact us at Live Paranormal. We'll be glad to try and help you or put you on the right path to finding someone who can. And Nick, like I said, Nikki has contacts all over this country. Out
of this country too.
Yeah, out of this country.
Are there places where people can find you? Like, how can they contact you? Where can they watch your live streams? All of that.
I haven't done any in a while. I feel rusty. I feel old. Live Paranormal is where we do a large number of our live streams on the Facebook page. Occasionally we're on Twitch, but not as often as Facebook. There for a while, we had some steam. We'll get back there. Come winter, I'll be able to get on the road again, because things will be dying down at work. It'll be a ghost town. Ha ha ha. So hopefully I'll be able to get back on the road. I think I might be doing another live stream with a partnership with Bloody Disgusting, which is a website that has asked us to partner up. I might be doing a live stream for them maybe next week. Wednesday or Thursday.
That's great. Awesome.
Yeah, I just have to work out the fine details so I can make the time to go and get back to go to work. Because when you're in this field, this is like our holiday, Halloween. And unfortunately, I won't be able to do a live stream on Halloween, because I also am needed at work, because it's going to be insane at work. So I'm going to miss that. But
that's too bad.
Yeah, but hey, I work in a haunted location, so maybe I'll have to pop up a live cam or something.
And you never know what might happen.
That's right. Might get a spoon thrown at a camera. Who knows?
Well, if that happens, I hope you get it on camera so we can all see.
Me too.
I would love to see that. Yeah. Well, thank you guys both for being here, and we really appreciate it. The stories are amazing, and I could only imagine living through that. I couldn't even imagine.
I couldn't
You guys
imagine
are
either.
definitely brave.
Yeah.
Very brave.
Thank you so much.
Well,
Thank you for having us, guys.
We hope you enjoyed this episode with Live Paranormal. Thank you, Nikki and Jenna, for sharing your time and your stories with us. Happy Halloween, everyone, and remember, as always, we are stronger together.
Be safe out there, guys.